Oh, so we were having a little chuckle. Everybody, I'd love to introduce you to Adelina, and we were just having a chuckle on how funny it is when we get together because the topics that we deep dive into are extraordinary topics, and the internet seems to play up for us a lot of the time.
Yeah, it does.
But we're determined and we're making it happen. So incredible woman. I have had the pleasure of working with you for the last couple of months now. And for me, working with you is like, I'm a big believer that we're like a car, you know, we get to maintain our vehicle. And for me, it's really important for me to have people in my corner. So I have, you know, Gabby's my business coach, and I have you as my spiritual coach. And then I have my massage therapist and my cat scratching the couch. She gets so cranky when I'm doing things. She's so funny. So I have all these support people that are around me, and working with you has taken some of my internal work to a whole other level. So I would love for you to just share with everyone the magic that is you.
Yeah, so I feel a lot of the space that I hold for individuals is just a lot of the space that I've had held for me. I've been through a very deep journey in this life, and there's just been so much that I've had to work through in terms of patterns and habits and family dynamics and addictions. And I think working with plant medicine has been a huge thing for me, and just doing my internal work, like you talked about, keeping that vessel clear. And I've spent a good decade of working on this internal vessel. And through that evolution of myself, I've been able to hold space for people. Looking at these habits, looking at the patterns, looking at those internal struggles, and creating a space to get closer to the heart, and creating more of an alignment to spirit, to your hopes, to your desires, to your dreams, and into your deepest wishes of your soul. So the mission that I'm on for myself seems to be the space that I'm holding for others to come into that same mission, which I feel like is so appropriate every time. The work that we end up doing is the work that we end up holding space for, whether we want to or not. It's like a constant reflection of like, oh, keep mirroring, keep doing the work. So yeah.
Yeah. I love our sessions because they pull back some layers for me on aspects of my life that I'm not having a look at, or the sessions take me deeper into the parts of my life. So it's been, and as you know, it's been a big mission of mine to be able to access my heart space. And it's something that I'm really good at. And then I also feel like there's things that we don't always see. And what I love about working with you is that I'm able to take different areas of my life to different levels. So my relationship, my parenting, and my business as well. Whilst I have my business coach, we still get to go to different layers with all of that. And it's been amazing. So much has shifted for me in this last couple of months in ways that I didn't expect. So yeah, eternally grateful for the work we're doing together.
Thank you so much, sister. It's a complete honor to hold this space.
Thank you. So let's deep dive. We were chatting the other day and you're like, right, download, here we go. This is what we're talking about on the interview, on the conversation. So do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, I would love to, because I actually just re-listened to it before this call, and it was just a minute download. And it was interesting. I love when we originally had come up with a topic, and then it just shifted because of a session that we had. And it was such a deep, not only a deep session, but it was more of like how much and how many of us go through this aspect of coming back to the heart and realigning ourselves visions by letting go of the comparisons. And I think we had a deeper discussion on what social media is great. I love it. Obviously, we're able to connect from across the world through it. And if we don't utilize it in a way that propels us forward, we can often get caught into the spiral of this person is doing that and this person is doing that, and comparing, and what can I do? And then that self-judgment and that inner critic can come in, and it really can weigh on us. It can become very heavy, to where we start not being able to see the light of our own individual signature and dharmic purpose in this particular form of life that we've chosen to take. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an addiction, isn't it? Like I can say for me, I sometimes catch myself just scrolling. And I have particular people on my page, so I get really great content and great information. It's uplifting. And also, you know, sometimes there is that comparison that comes up, and I'm not attached to the comparison, and I still recognize that occasionally it's there. And it was one of my other mentors, one of my other business mentors. Man, I have so many amazing women supporting me in my life, and my massage therapist is a man. And so one of my other mentors, I saw something she was doing, and I was like, man, I think this is how our conversation had started.
I think so.
It's that we can go into the comparisonitis in a judgmental way of self. And then sometimes I find the comparisonitis, if we're aware enough, can give us a little bit of a kick up the ass to actually shift gears a little bit. And for me, that's what this other mentor of mine did. I saw her vlogging, and I saw this 90-day experience she was creating for herself, going to the edge of every area of her life. Shout out to Christy Ord. And yeah, I love her. And just like seeing her do that 90 days, it was like, man, I'm really... am I actually playing that small? It's like, she just, whenever I see Christy step up, it's amazing, because I have the pleasure of actually, you know, I feel like I get lifted up and supported alongside her. So in that comparison, it's like, I feel like it's important for us to come from a space of how can I expand in my life, and come from a proactive space, not a my life shit, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah. And I love that we're actually leading with this, and I feel like we'll like end with the heart, which is so perfect. I think that, you know, sometimes with the comparison, I do feel it is such a propelling force forward of like, wow, I really like what that person's doing. Not so much the details of what they're doing, but the energy behind it. And I think if we can stay more in tune with what is the energy behind that person, what is the feelings or what is the behaviors that person's resonating at, and how can I become more in alignment, not to that person, but into whatever I'm feeling attracted to. That's one piece of the comparison I think that we can really use as a force field for pushing ourselves to the edge and going to where it's uncomfortable. And then the second aspect is, we can go into that judgment space, or I find for me, I can tend to go into a freeze space where it's like, I've got so much work to do to get to that place. Like, there's no way I can do all that. But really, all I have to do is say, okay, wait, am I willing to go to that place? And then can I just create a very small, simple map or layout of what are some very, very simple, and I can totally add on later if I want, steps that I can take that can at least get me in the direction of that, so that the overwhelm or the excuse really of that's way too much, like there's no way I can get there, doesn't create that freeze response, and I can actually start to acclimate myself in that sense of crawling before walking, before running. Like, we don't have to go all the way to where they are, because chances are that person didn't go all the way straight there. You know, there's lots of bumps in the road. And are we willing to go into that fear or into those places of failure? Because really, failure is it's just a mindset. I think for me, that's where I watch myself getting caught up, and I have to remind myself that it's okay. I'm willing to go into the fear. I'm willing to fail along the way, because really that failure just gives me more information on what it is that I need to do next, or get more creative. Like, if that didn't work perfect, I get to explore and get even more creative, which for some people may be intimidating, but for me, it's kind of like a challenge. Yeah.
I love that. Oh yeah. There's so much beauty in being able to witness somebody else and their journey, and just take the pieces that are serving for us, rather than make ourselves wrong for where we think we're not at. And I love that with our own evolution, we are consistently changing. And yeah, we can go. I was relating so much there to the freeze. It's like, and then yeah, and I guess like the question that keeps coming through for me, for potentially other people, is, you know, how do you take that baby step? How do you break down the pieces where you know, you're in overwhelm, you're seeing other people doing things, and it's all good and well for us to have this conversation. You do it, I do it, it's break it down, we get clear, we look at different things. But it's like thinking back, sometimes I struggle to think back to how I did things in my life. So for somebody who may be listening to this or watching this, what would a simple step be, Adelina, in that crawling space if someone is feeling overwhelmed, or they're in freeze, or they're in whatever else state?
So I have a few that are just coming to my mind at the moment. And the first one is looking at because usually freeze is just a result of, for me, for the most part, it's fear. Like I freeze in fear. And that's just a common characteristic of fear, because we're trying to protect ourselves. You know, it's just a basic human response to fear. One of them. Sometimes we run, things like this. But I would identify what's behind the freeze. So for anyone who's on this call, like what is behind the freeze? And if it is fear, I'll just use this as an example. What exactly is the fear? So I like to go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, of exploration of like, let me follow this fear. And it doesn't have to necessarily go to your past or the traumas. Like, yes, that probably all contributes, but I try to stay really focused on what is it the fear attached to that I can be held responsible for, so that I feel like I can make a change in it. So maybe you follow fear down the rabbit hole and you find out you're afraid, let's just use, because we already mentioned it, to fail. Okay, so it's like, well, what is the worst thing that can happen in that failure? So say it's like, I don't know, you go to build, this is great, a website, and you're like, well, I'm afraid that I'm going to fail on that, or like the website's not going to be good enough. And you can follow it down and realize like, oh, well, even if the website's not good enough, I can totally change it or evolve it or add to it. Like if even I fail, if I go all the way to the end of that failure, it's like, what are my options in that failure? And a lot of times the failure, we're creating that fear, and we're creating that failure on a way bigger spectrum. We're making things mean way more than they need to. And I think it's just about simplifying it and bringing a little bit of breath and clarity to that space of what are my options in that realm. And when we do that, I find for myself, when I do that, it's like so much opens up. It's like, oh, I can just like add more pictures, or I can just revamp the color schemes, or whatever it is. It's not an end all. Nothing is an end all be all. And I think sometimes we think when we fail, like that's it, we're done, we're kaput, we're out. And it's like, no, actually we have an opportunity, and there's many, many more options in the realm of failure. So that's just one example. Following whatever that primary emotion is that happens in the freeze to whatever you're thinking about that, and opening up into, well, what are my options if that were to happen? Because then we can like self-soothe in that moment and realize like, wow, at the end of that, there's actually so much that can become alive if I change my thoughts pertaining to the outcome, and realize that a lot of the fear is being created on a larger spectrum than necessary. Yeah, so that's one way.
Love that.
I don't know if you have any comments on that. If not, then I can continue, but yeah.
I think what's coming through for me is that we make up so much with our mind. And I watched a really cool Dr. Joe Dispenza video day before, and he was talking about how our thoughts are outside of our head, how they're not actually inside of our head, and how our belief systems and whatnot are created. It's like one of my most favorite topics to dive into. And the big thing that was coming through for me when you were speaking is that we can get so stuck in the mind. And often, until we, like 95% of the time, we're running from unconscious mind, right? So that means we're on repeat, replaying out the same stuff. So those fears that are coming to the surface for us, if it was a fear of failure, it's not actually real per se, but we work ourselves up. We can work ourselves up into that space of overwhelm, of freeze, of flight, of the natural responses from the caveman days. We can do all of that. And I think this is why I'm so passionate about us understanding that we are not our mind, that we do not have to get stuck in the trap of the mind. And if we can take a step back, that's for me, that would be something, to take a step back in that moment. And that takes awareness, that takes consciousness. to just go, hold on a second, this is not serving me to feel this way. And for me, I used to have this belief around leadership that if I wanted to go to 7 figures from multiple 6, that I would have to emulate some people I knew. And in that emulation, I was like this wasn't conscious at the time. When I peeled this back, when I had perceived fear around leadership, it was like, well, the thought was, if I want to have 7 figures and I have to do what they're doing. And it was like, whoa up, I don't want that responsibility. And then I had this moment, it was like, well, what does leadership mean to me? And I think that's where we get stuck, is that the meanings we give things are often not our own meaning. They're often perceived ideas. They're often other people's meanings of things. When if we actually have a look for ourselves, I was able to rewrite what leadership meant to me, and I was able to give it new meaning, so that leadership was with ease and flow and not burning myself out and not going into overwhelm. Leadership got to come 7 figures and beyond with the hours that I was comfortable to work in a day, with taking a day off for Goddess Day, with taking my weekends off for family. And we get to do that. So with the perception of what you were just sharing, Adelina, I feel like for those that are listening, if there is that fear of failure, it's like, well, how about you check out, or you could check out, well, what does failure actually mean to me? And then you get to give it a new meaning, and then get to give new behavior to that. Otherwise, we're running these fears, doubts, programs just on autopilot. It's like they're dictating. We're not actually being conscious. And this is like conscious conversations, right? Like we want to become conscious in our lives so that we're not being dictated to, so that our mind is not telling us everything. So we're not living 95% in our unconscious mind on autopilot.
Yeah, I love that, everything that you just shared, because especially the part about, being on that autopilot, it's like we keep making that fear mean something. And when we start to just do a little bit of like self-inquiry and self-awareness, it's like, wow, these fears that I'm making up really are so outrageous sometimes. It's like, that's not even possible. And even if it is, like the way that it would even happen, there's so much to have to happen for that to happen. And I think if we can really bring that awareness and that inquiry of what does fear actually mean to us, or whatever emotion we're working with that's holding us back, we can really have a discovery process. And I think the second, piece with what, adding on to what you were saying, is coming back to the body. Our thoughts, our behaviors, these like subconscious patternings that especially Joe Dispenza talks about. A lot of times it's just ding, 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 round and round and round and round. And we revisit it so often. And for me, being in my body is so critical. I spend at least an hour to 2 hours a day. For me, it's dancing and music. So dancing, singing, yoga, meditation, playing my drum, like whatever it is, being in nature, going for a walk, something that brings back to this physical being that we have chosen to come into.
Your screen froze, but I could still just hear what you were saying. And I feel like there's a lot of confusion around what you just shared, like having time for yourself and really coming into the body, like you were talking about, and having those, you take 2 hours. I think that's phenomenal. And sometimes I feel like there's a confusion around why you do that. So just in the understanding, like, of coming into the body, it's like, well, what's the importance? What's your take on the importance of that, Adelina? And I'm just going to get my cacao as you start. Oh, it's here.
Go for it.
Hang on. I'm like, I really want to drink that, and it's on my desk, and no, it's not. It's at my feet.
Cacao, yes. He's always there hanging out. I really love that question. And I think for me, I've been a dancer for years, 20 years I've been dancing, and about 7 years I've been a massage therapist. So just really working a lot with the body and working with clients on the table and working with myself, using dance and movement, not to disassociate, but to really allow myself to feel whatever is coming out of the thought process. So we have our thoughts, and then once our thoughts are developed or reestablished, we have a feeling that comes from that thought, some somewhere along the way. And I think when we have that feeling, it's like, oh, okay, I can actually start discerning what that thought is doing to my physical being. Like, is it bringing about anxiety? Is it bringing about sadness? Is it bringing about tension? Like, what are these thoughts doing? So for me, when I get more in tune with my body and I start bringing down these thoughts into feelings, it's like, oh, wow, that thought is creating so much unnecessary tension in my being. So I need to really work with what this thought is. I'm not avoiding the thought and I'm not avoiding the feeling, but I at least can start to understand how connected the mind body actually is. And I mean, working in the shamanic realms and working with a lot of plant medicine, you see in these communities how thought processes actually create physical disease in the body, especially when we're suppressing emotion and things such of this nature. And so it's it's very connected. So it's not that we only work with the body and we only work with the mind. It's like we're utilizing the connectivity between the mind and the body to better understand how our thoughts and how our subconscious programming is affecting how we feel and how we actually are able to relate with our friends, with our family, with our relationships, with ourselves, and most importantly, with spirit and divine. So that's how I would say the importance of it is, and that's the way that I work it with it.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Where else are we diving in this conversation?
So I think the last thing is like, connecting into spirit and into the heart, and coming back to actually, we'll tie it into the body perspective, is when we come into our human experience and into the body, we're able to feel. And I think a lot of times we're avoiding that feeling. We're avoiding the feeling of the thought. For some reason, I'm just hearing this needs to happen. So we're avoiding the feeling of whatever thought is there. And it's in that avoidance and it's in that resistance that we create a lot of unnecessary struggle for ourselves. And I can't see questions. I wish I could, but for a lot of people, I find, especially clients that come to me, they'll be sharing and then they're like, well, yeah, but that's not a feeling I want to feel. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. We need to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, and we need to be okay with feeling things that maybe don't feel so good, not to stay there, but to be able to give us the information that we need to move forward. And it's going to be by taking physical action with the body in our lives to propel us forward to make the changes. And sometimes the mind doesn't want to do that. So we have to almost push ourselves to make that schedule, or to dance that dance, or to go to a yoga class. We have to do the things to reset the mind from its processes. A lot of compassion for ourselves in these moments and coming back to the heart, because it's hard. We don't want to do it, and we're going to find all the reasons why we can't do it. And we're going to, that inner judge that lives in the center of us, that inner critic's going to come out during these times. And so it's about tuning into the heart and coming back to your wants, your desires, your deepest prayer, your deepest vision.
Oh no, we're going to freeze. Okay, while Adelina has frozen. Oh, hang on. I think she's frozen. So we've got Anita, hello. Francesca, Sammy, hello. Oh, you've unfrozen. You're frozen like the pivotal moment there.
Are we back?
I think you're just coming back.
Okay. I don't know where I was at, but I was in a flow.
And I think, well, I can see here now we've got some people, which is really cool. I figured out how to look on my phone and
Perfect.
to not hear it. So we've got Anita and Francesca and Sammy. Sammy says Matt Kahn speaks on releasing judgment and the importance of it. Thank you, Anita. Paula is loving this. Sinead, love you, ladies. I'm listening to an audio at the moment, and this is exactly what it is. Amazing. Hey ladies. Okay, cool. So there's no questions or anything like that, but there's just a few people on there with us at the moment. So I think, I don't know if you've frozen again, Adelina. I think you may have. I guess I'm just going to take it for a second while Adelina's internet hopefully comes back. For me, what Adelina was just sharing, there you are, what Adelina was just sharing on with the heart connection, I'm so big on in the work that I do with the head, the heart, and the womb space. And that encompasses everything. There you are, beauty. That encompasses everything from the spiritual realms to the different dimensions. Like, it goes beyond the three aspects. And I feel like when we can actually tap into the way I see it is that when we understand we are not our mind, when we can understand our thought processes, when we can rewire our own neural pathways through specific activities, exercises, consciousness, etc., then we have access to the heart. And through that access to the heart, we can actually feel, like you were just sharing about, we can actually feel who we are, what we desire, bigger missions, bigger visions, and get into just our soul, our essence of who we are. And then for me, the next part of the journey is being able to, once we've got that, once we can feel, then we can access the superpowers of the womb space. And that's where creation is. That's where wealth creation is. That's where relationship creation is. That's where abundance is. That's where we can do anything as women. It's our power center. And when we can, I feel like until we get out of the mind, until we recognize we are not our thought processes, we're cut off from the neck down when we're stuck here. And there's so much available to us by being able to access the heart and the womb space. So now that we've got you back, do you want to just maybe make a repoint on the heart there? Would be great. So funny, you're frozen again. I think that, there you go. Now, last chance. Come on, internet gods.
Okay, what was the last little bit that you said? You said something at the very last sentence.
Do you have one? Do you want to just share one more thing around the heart if the internet's going to play? Just the importance of being able to access the heart.
Yeah, I mean, through the heart that the world heals. You know, it's through love that we find the deepest connection. And when you talked about bringing everything down, you know, it's like our connection to spirit, our connection to source, our connection to prayer, our connection to vision is incredibly important, but it has to flow into the heart to be able to be gifted in a way that is just pure love. Allie May.
Oh, I love you, Adelina.
Okay, I can't see you, so I can't tell if you heard anything I said.
I did. I heard it all, and I feel like that's our sign to actually wrap up what we're doing. So I think we've shared everything that we intended on sharing, and we love how we break the internet with our energy and our vibration. It's really cool how that happens. I would just love to thank you, Adelina, for
we're gonna figure it out.
Thank you for joining me for this conscious conversation. You know, the wisdom you hold, the human that you are, the woman that you are. Just the video you sent me this morning just blew my mind. Your feminine energy is like my being was turned on in the most delicious way of, whoa, this woman, you know, like I saw you in such a different way by this video. And it was the opening of the feminine essence, the movement, the magic of woman, and you embody that so beautifully. I aspire to embody my feminine energy in a way that you do as well. So thank you for all you bring. Thank you for the woman you are. Thank you for the depths that you travel to within your being to be able to support so many people on our planet. Yeah, so much love and gratitude for you, sister.
Oh, thank you so much, Allie. What an honor. And we will hopefully be able to live stream on Facebook next time we do that.
We will. Oh, and one last thing. If people want to find you and they want to connect with you, what's the best way?
So the best way right now is you could just send me a direct message on Facebook, because one of my fears that I actually brought up in this call is my website and my logo and everything is getting built right now. So I'm in a deep process of becoming more available online and coming out of my cocoon.
it's so great that you get to have your business through word of mouth. You know, it's like that's it.
Yes.
You've got a great business. You know you're doing amazing things for the planet, and you know you're doing incredible work when you don't even have to have a website or have to be on social media because people find you. I love that. I didn't find you from social media. Yeah, so
No, nobody has.
no, it's
So it's perfect. But thank you so much, Allie May.
pleasure.
Appreciate your soul.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to our session in like half an hour. And to each and every single incredible, beautiful soul that has joined us today and who is watching the replay, thank you so much. Sending you all deep gratitude and so much love. And I will catch you soon.